You see, folks, you really were born to win. But in order to be the winner you were born to be, you got to plan to win, you got to prepare to win, and then only then can you legitimately expect to win.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ziglar's Legacy Voices podcast. My name is John. This is episode number 11 of the podcast, and here on Ziglar's Legacy Voices podcast, we get the opportunity to talk to folks who've been impacted by the timeless message of Zig Ziglar. And today is no different. Here again, episode number 11. I am privileged to have a gentleman with me who I've just got to know a little bit more, and it's exciting for you to hear his story. I'm excited to actually welcome him. His name is Justin Young. Let's say hello to Justin. Hi, Justin.
Hey, John. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very well, and I'm glad we had a little bit of time before we actually started recording the podcast to talk, and for me to get to know you a little bit better. You have so far lived an incredible life, and I'm sure we're going to have an opportunity to share some of that with the listeners, and certainly also share with them how you can serve them and help them in their endeavors. But before we go, that deep, maybe Justin, if you'd tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit of background so our listeners can understand that.
Sure, I'd love to, John. I grew up here in South Georgia, was born and raised in a little town called Adel, and if you ever travel down I-75, we're just a little blip on the radar, you might would miss it. But live now right outside of Valdosta, Georgia, which is where we're based out of, with my wife Brandy, and have 3 children: Shade, who's 12 now, and Landon, who is 8, just turned 8, and my daughter Lakeland, who's 2.5, and live here actually in a little town called Lake Park, right outside of Valdosta. And but yeah, I was born in Adel, Georgia, and come from a great family. My dad was a paramedic for many years, chief of Tiff County EMS, and around 1997 he went full time into the ministry as senior pastor of a church that he had founded back in the early 90s, and that church had become very successful and grown to the level that it really would occupy all of his time, and so grew up as a PK, a preacher's kid, and so all the preacher's kids that may be listening can sympathize with me. Certainly, it's not always easy growing up in the home of a pastor and ministry. You're kind of under little excessive watchful eyes all the time. But yeah, I grew up there, and one of the main things probably as growing up that I was always passionate about was music. I played drums and was actually the main drummer for our church when I was at age 5, actually. And just something I had grew up, my parents had always encouraged me and nurtured me with. And started around 2 with pots and pans, and would tear up one little drum kit with paper heads that you could buy at Walmart, and they'd buy another one. And So that I was always passionate, and that was kind of my driving force coming up. And growing up in the ministry, of course, there was not only did I get to enjoy music at home, but of course got to enjoy it growing up in the church. And so at age 15, I had the opportunity to go out with a major contemporary Christian music group at the time, and that kind of introduced me to the industry. And from 15 to 21. Homeschooled, traveled on the road with various artists, and wasn't on the road all the time, but for much of that time was. And so at 21, come back to help my dad there. The church had continued to grow and flourish. Came on as an administrative assistant. Within about a year, was the executive pastor and chief financial officer, helping him manage all the different aspects of the ministry. Had a Christian school, Bible college, television, radio ministry, and learned a lot there, and a tremendous amount. And for about a good decade, that's what I've done. That was what I was passionate about, and got a great bond connection with my dad. I always felt like I was really an armor bearer for him, and helped him grow and further the ministry there. where he could focus on other things. He's, overseer, bishop over, many different churches and pastors, and so that allowed him to focus on that, and I kind of managed home base, and it was great on-the-job training, learned a lot about, finances, managing people, how to deal with people, and so for about a good 10 years done that, and also we owned a couple of businesses and companies involved in real estate, and had some great success there, and then went through, some major changes a little later on. I was about 28 years old when the world started changing financially. Real estate started not performing quite as well, and went through kind of a difficult time due to that, and really a time of really just starting over again in life. And, a lot of great things came out of that. It's kind of like when you're in that process, it's almost like a birthing process. You take a mama having a baby, it's painful and it hurts, and you don't understand a lot of things that's going on in the process. But once you come out the other side, you get to see what it was all for, and what it done in you, and I absolutely see the worth and the value. So went through a 2-year period of difficulty there, and but come out stronger and better on the other side, and God was with us the whole time, even when it seems like people's not, and come out, and due to all that, met my wife Brandy, and became dad overnight to 2 little boys, and that was an experience, but certainly love them like my own, and have raised them from little fellas, and then we've got, of course, had our first child together, Lakeland, who's one of the great lights of my life for certain, and we've really just grown and bonded together as a family, and grown in business, and Brandy's a large part of helping motivate me, and even through difficult times when her and I she kind of came along in the time of my life when things were difficult, downtrodden, and always reminded me of who I was, motivated me, and of course out of that, marriage, and then we started a company here in Valdosta, Paramount Benefits Group, and we're in partnership with my business partner and brother-in-law, John Tanner, who owns Tanner Investment Group, and so in the marketplace, our niche market really is the senior market, and we do everything from Medicare supplements, life insurance, financial planning, investments, primarily for 65 and older. And that company's really, right now, we're in a great season of growth, and a lot of things are going on there. And so we're excited that, kind of like that scripture, weeping endures for a night, but joy comes in the morning. So
yes.
out of a season where there was some weeping, we've had a lot of joy come from that, and God has certainly kept us.
Yeah, it sounds like you're serving now out of a position of strength, and it wasn't always the case, right? You had some events in your life. You had some very real hard business decisions that you had to make, and as a result of that, and as we were talking before, we were talking about the obedience really in kind of pressing through some of that, and as a result of that, now you're in a position to help and serve a couple of different markets, not only the senior market with your insurance and investment products, but even in inspiring other people, and your story is inspiring. It truly is, and again, thank you for sharing that with us. Now,
absolutely.
Now you have an interesting story because you met Zig Ziglar. Is that correct? And on several occasions.
Absolutely, yeah. We and I often. I've told my wife, and even when I speak, I've said this several times, it was one of the only thing that I regret in the process of meeting Zig is we didn't have cameras on our phones back then. And, what I would give at this point in life, knowing what I know now, to have been able to have a picture with him, it would be absolutely priceless for me. But that was late 90s, and nobody was, or most people, put it that way, wasn't walking around with cell phones that they could carry that was a decent size, much less having a camera on it. But yeah, I met Zig several times there. I've got family that live in Dallas and that was on staff at Prestonwood Baptist, which is where Zig taught a Sunday school class for, my goodness, decades. And so, yeah, I got to meet him on several occasions. The occasion that really stands out the most to me, it was actually me and my sister was there in the sanctuary at Prestonwood Baptist down near the front. And here came Zig just walking down the hallway. And I remember he handed me a round to it, and all of us with Ziglar Special, we know what a round to it is.
Exactly.
Had his information on it, kind of like a business card. And, of course, there's a message there, too. And handed me that, and I remember he kneeled down so he could get on the level with my little sister, kind of eye to eye with her, and kneeled down and told her how pretty she was and shook her hand. And just from the time, growing up in the ministry and traveling with my parents and being around a lot of people, I just remember that really making an impression on me. There was something about his presence that was different. When he got in your personal space, there was just a warmth, authenticity is the best word I know how to. I mean, I've never met anybody that I felt was more authentic than Zig Ziglar. And at the time, I think when that particular time I'm talking about, when I met him, I was maybe 15, I believe, 16 years old, somewhere around there. And I just remember feeling. It was almost like he got wrapped with a warm blanket when he got close to you. I mean, that's just the kind of love and authenticity that he emitted from every fiber of his being. And, again, what I wouldn't give to be able to have a picture of that, but I kept that round to it. And I knew who he was. Maybe I didn't understand at the time quite the caliber of the giant he was. I didn't know he was, speaking to 40,000, 60,000 people in convention centers, but I had family in the sales industry, in the insurance industry, and I remember when I would ride with my uncle sometimes, some places, or my grandfather, I remember having to, move cassette tape series cases out of the way. And always, the majority of the time, those were Zig's. It was his material, and they had learned early on about Automobile University.
Yes.
In the insurance industry, you spend a lot of time in a vehicle. And so they... that voice was something you never forgot, and I remember hearing it when I was just a real young guy as they'd be riding down the road and listening to him. So I knew who he was, maybe didn't quite understand fully the magnitude at age 14 or 15 there, but certainly knew who he was, and, knew better who I had met after I actually met him than having not met him, if that makes sense. I mean, it just kind of, he just stood out as an individual beyond anyone I'd ever met before. So,
yeah, and I think we're seeing a resurgency in Automobile University. I'm almost calling it Automobile University Rebooted, and that is, the opportunity to self-educate is another term that's out there now, where it's not a formal education type, college or university program, but people really taking an initiative to get the good, the clean, the pure, the positive. The type of material that Ziglar put out and continues, the Ziglar Corporation continues to put out excellent information, and the principles are timeless. And if you have an opportunity to listen while you're on your commute, whether it be 30 minutes, I mean, I live in the Northeast, so 30 minutes is a really short commute. But having been in California this week and spending some time in the San Francisco area, most people have a much longer commute, and that is a great opportunity to fill your mind and to change your mind, and change the way you think. And that was a big part of what Ziglar did. Certainly he couldn't be in front of everyone. You were very fortunate to have met him, even if, as you say, you didn't have the opportunity to fully kind of understand, what it is he was doing at the time. But, I hear that from folks when I talk with them. It was almost as if you were the only one in the room when you met him and you were talking with him. He was like fully invested with you. And that's awesome. And I think, you would agree with me, going back to Ziglar headquarters in Dallas, and the family. I mean, those traits were certainly passed on through the DNA of the Ziglar family, because when you're there with Tom and Julie and Cindy and even the whole staff of Ziglar folks, you do kind of feel like you're the only one, and the attention and just the warmth the genuine warmth that they portray for what it is you're doing. I mean, it's quite evident.
Yeah, it's remarkable, really. I've been, my goodness, I've been, to so many conferences and whether it be a business conference or church conferences, in the field I was in for so many years, and you meet a lot of, quote unquote famous people, a lot of great people that, have written books, have television shows, and I can say and I said this when I was there, one of the things the little bit I was able to speak, I was kind of the crybaby out there the whole week. I couldn't even get through my,
oh, you're one of those.
What I was supposed to say at the end, and I even joked, we had trainers like, Jill Tipples there and all, and I even told him, I said, I've cried all through the week. She's telling us, turn to page LN4, in your manual, and I just bust out crying. It'd come on me in waves, but I didn't expect that, to be honest with you, because out of everything I've ever been to, whether it was personal growth or, spiritual growth or what have you, I didn't go out there expecting to have I almost feel like surgery was done on me, if that makes sense. And it came at the right time in my life. Really, in a matter of weeks, it just came on me that I needed to do that. I needed to get into the first webcast and find out what was required and see if I thought I even had a chance of making it. Honestly, with some of the difficult times and all I'd been through in years previous, I didn't know whether that would, sure didn't think it would help me any. Was amazed that I made the top 20 there to get into that second class out of the tons and tons of people that had applied. But just being there on Ziglar headquarters, I remember getting out of my car that first morning and fighting back tears walking in, and it's not like, it's an office building. There's nothing, and I was like, I couldn't figure it out. I perplexed myself. I could not figure out why I was so emotional, and like a brokenness that came on me. And I fought back tears all week, would, start crying at weird times when you shouldn't even have cried. It just didn't make any sense to me, really. But the more the week went on, and the more I met Julie and I met Tom and got to spend some time with them and break bread with them, and it all began to make a lot better sense to me. But I didn't realize the spiritual impact that it would have on me. And that last day when we were all supposed to say something before we leave, I couldn't even hardly get anything out. I just cried the whole time and really felt somewhat ridiculous because that's not my nature. I'm normally getting up and speaking and blowing and going, but I almost felt like almost like I was sedated or an invalid or something. I couldn't even be me for being broken. And Tom talks a lot about brokenness and what Zig's philosophy on that was, and so that something great happened in me while I was there. I still don't understand all of it. I know I'm living and living the benefits and the fruit from that trip and from the certification. Now, our business has grown. We're recruiting more people than ever before. My whole life outlook is a lot different. It was just a revelatory process. And, even like you mentioned earlier, just let me make this last point on brokenness, and we'll carry on with the interview. But, in life, I find that God takes us, He blesses us, and He breaks us so that He can serve us to the world. And you see that through, even if you read Scripture, the story of the 5 loaves and 2 fishes and all that. But in life, He'll take you, He'll bless you, and then you go through, seems like sometimes a season of brokenness, but only until you're broken can you be any good, can you serve people. And I really feel like some of the brokenness and a lot of the things that I had went through years previous in life, when I didn't even really understand what I was doing, but when I got on that plane and I flew to Dallas, and I went there and I set foot on Ziglar headquarters, which that's, in my opinion, that's holy ground. You know what I'm saying? when I stepped foot there, it absolutely changed me, and I believe it was kind of the final ceiling. It was the last couple of stitches going in that really helped complete what I had been through and really put that final salve on my life and everything I had been through. And I'm still in awe of it. So.
Wow. Yeah, and I would agree with you that there is a process of healing that comes when you do some self-examination, and a lot of what we did in the beginning part of the certification was look inward, right? And often people don't do that enough. And before you can really start to grow your business, your family, I think you need to take a look inward, from a spiritual sense, and really get your own house in order. And you can't do that alone. We know the foundations and the pinnings of that is God, certainly. And I didn't expect I really didn't know what to expect pulling up to Ziglar headquarters, quite frankly. I had been introduced to Zig through sales podcasts. I was in direct sales for 15 years and, just driving around in my own automobile university, if you would, being introduced to him and hearing his messages consistently. And so I went in with a very kind of a staunch business approach to this. And I tell you, those first few days were tough because it was like, no, we're not talking about building your business yet. We're talking about building you. And they take time to do that. And you do that with, some 20 some odd other folks in the class and form relationships and forge relationships that, that can carry on. So it is a great experience. It sounds like you were impacted incredibly from it. And from that, you actually branched out and did some really cool things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the projects? I know I was excited to hear what you did with the Excellence Effect seminar that you were giving. Why don't you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, we and really this ties in great to what we were just saying. About the Ziglar family, Julie and Tom, and several months back. I guess maybe that was around the summer of this year. We were contacted, by Tom and different guys there from Ziglar headquarters about the possibility of being able to team up with Tom and have him fly in and host an event with you. And of course, keynote that event. And so as soon as I heard that, that absolutely excited me. And I wanted to be able to do something. There'd been articles ran in the paper, and I've been doing some radio and some stuff like that around here about Ziglar Legacy and the certification process. And so there was some buzz already going, but I wanted to be able to bring something home here to Lowndes County, to Valdosta, that would really kind of bring it full circle and put a face, so to speak, on what we were doing and what I was launching here with our company. And so, and really what I was saying, how this ties in so well, is I've never been part of an organization that follows through and actually does what they say and goes beyond, above and beyond what I would even normally feel necessary from, you look at an organization like Ziglar. Zig reached over, 250 million people, and you look at the immense trail and path that was blazed there, and what Tom and them are continuing to do, and their schedules, and the fact that they would take time to help someone like you and I, and not just speak it. I've been a part and been around a lot of people that talk a good talk, and they tell you what they're going to do, and I can write you a book on everybody from preachers and business owners and everybody, that say they're going to do this and do that, and they blow and go and get out of town, and you don't ever hear hiding their hair from them, to use a Southern expression, again. And I've just been amazed at how Tom and them have followed through and the effort they've taken. And so Tom, we put a proposal together for them to review. He accepted that. Of course, we set the date for October the 28th and hosted our first hometown event here, Excellence Effect 2014. And of course, Excellence Effect, far as branding goes, that's the name of our personal growth motivational company. Also the title we'll talk about before we get off the podcast here, some other projects we've got coming up. But had that first event just titled it that, Excellence Effect 2014. Tom came in and, was just marketed primarily to the business community, small business community, but, of course to individuals as well. And just had an absolutely phenomenal turnout, over 112 people. We were really not planned for that. I would have been happy with, 50 for this type of seminar. We were going to do goal setting and achievement, and then, let Tom speak about Ziglar and what all was going on, there with the corporation and Ziglar Legacy Certification. And so anyway, ended up with over 112 people. Had to drastically kind of redo our plans and seating and what we were prepared to handle. But it just had phenomenal feedback from it, still getting testimonies from it. I had people leaving that day saying, when's the next one? We'd planned to do one a year, and so now we're looking at probably twice a year, 6 months from now, having something else, maybe trying to do 2 events here a year, and whether that's, would love to have some other Ziglar Legacy Certified Speakers in, and we're looking right now trying to figure out kind of what the roster will be for the next one. But yeah, definitely want to have a focus where we really, bring it all home here at least once or twice a year and pour into our own community, as opposed to me leaving and flying out and going and always, speaking for other companies and municipalities and that type of thing. That's great, and we want to continue to do that, and that's a valid part of our business, as well as the coaching and everything else. But really excited about the response from this past local event here, and really want to grow that and see it take flight and go to a whole new level. So,
yeah, I mean, you've really achieved some very early success here with this conference. I mean, to just put a conference out there and have the doors kind of bulging with 112 people in a local area, that's incredible. I mean, that just is a testimony to me that this material and the message that you're bringing is really needed, right? There's almost a vacuum. No one's talking about this to business leaders, and certainly, you see goal setting programs and webinars and things of that nature. But to really do things live and have that connection, it's so powerful. And it's great to see that you've achieved that success pretty much right out of the gate. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know, Justin, there's a ton of work that went behind making that happen. But it's certainly validation to do 2 or more events a year. And I love your idea of bringing in other speakers from other areas as well. And I'll have to make an application and see if you'd have me down to Georgia to do that. I'd love to help.
We'd love to.
Great. And you're also an author. I mean, that's amazing. I talk to people on the podcast, and they have their hands in so many different areas. And why don't you talk about that experience and what that is like and how that's kind of blessed you?
Yeah, we just actually this week, first published project that I've ever been a part of was released, and that's Ziglar Legacy. There's been 2 Ziglar Legacy books published, and I'm part of the second one with 10 other authors. There's 11 of us total. And basically each author, of course, all influential people, great people, got their companies and their businesses and their own things going on. And so it's a very interesting project, having everybody, people from that many walks of life. I believe we've even got an author or 2, from other countries that's in this book with me on this one. It just come out so quick, I've not even had time to read all their stories yet. And that's on my agenda for this weekend. If I can sit down for a moment and try to go through that, I'd love to read what everyone else has written. But yeah, I'm blessed to be able to have a chapter there. Actually, I've got the last chapter in that book, and it's just stories and motivational stories from quite a few of us there. And, of course, mine's titled Excellence Effect, and it's really a prequel, so to speak, or just a concise version of what we feel our core message is at Excellence Effect and what we want to be able to impart and impact people's lives with, and just taking that core message to the world. And so kind of a condensed version that's in this Ziglar Legacy book, but it is available on my website, and of course just got an email this week. I believe that it's now can be ordered as well from Amazon and Barnes & Noble online. So that's a great book. It's right here in time for Christmas. It'll be something great to get out to people. And so, but yeah, first published work. We're real excited about it. I actually got a first book signing this Sunday afternoon coming up, and about 3/4 of the way through my first solo project, first book there, which will be the full version of the Excellence Effect and us explaining that core message, and that book will be set to release, Lord willing. We'll have that ready to go by spring of 2015. So.
And it'll certainly be a good addition to, if you do have another event coming up, an opportunity for people to get their hands on that material, at the event as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We're excited to be able to, to have a piece of our story and what we feel our life mission is, to be able to put there on the table with all the, classic Ziglar materials. And so, if it certainly is, we wouldn't say it was on par with anything Zig wrote by any means, but to be able to have something personal from our own story to add, to the table and to hopefully impact and inspire people's lives is a thrill. It really is.
Well, if folks didn't want to wait until spring of this next year, where could they find out more about you, and how can you help them? Just maybe go through some of the areas that you can serve with certainly with the Excellence Effect project that you're working on, and the other things that you do.
Yeah, well, the best way to kind of track what's going on with us and what we're doing is from my website, and that's jjustinyoung.com. And there from our website, there's direct links to all our social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, our YouTube channel. We produce at least about 4 times a year. We'll go into the studio and produce some 2-3 minute motivational videos, really just trying to bring some concise nuggets of truth to people that we can, launch out through social media. And so we've gotten some great response from those videos. So, of course, that link to the YouTube channel where those can be watched is there on our website. And continuing to add content. There'll be more and more content going up on the website even in the next few months. The DVD set from this last Excellence Effect event that we just had is being produced right now, and so that'll be available here shortly. I'm anticipating, my production people saying within about the next 3 weeks, so we can plan for maybe right after Christmas. That'll be available. The online store is there, so all that can be purchased there at jjustinyoung.com, and that way you can invest and sow into your life. And yeah, just we're just trying at this point to really press forward and get the content out there and available to make a difference, and that's what it's all about. What we find and what I have found years of working with people, and I'm not that old, but I've done a lot, and kind of really just started very young. Like I told you earlier, I tended to always be the kid that was hanging out with the adults while everybody else was playing with Tinker Toys, So my parents, if they told me once, they told me 100 times, you need to slow down and not grow up so quick because there'll be time for all of that. So, but being so heavily involved in business as a younger person, of course, being in the ministry for a good decade of my life as a profession as well, helping care for people and helping counsel people. And what I have found in life is that people don't have a money problem. People don't have a relationship problem. They don't. A lot of these problems that we label is not really the problem, and we have to get to the core and get to the root. And really, what we have is a wisdom problem. And in everything we seek in life, we seek understanding and seek wisdom. There's wisdom in a multitude of counsel. And what I see, a lot of people just get their lunch ate, so to speak. They go through life, they go through difficult times because They don't seek wisdom. They don't enroll in automobile university. They don't. They'll go out and get themselves neck deep in debt on frivolities and things that they don't necessarily even need, but won't spend a dime to pour into their own self and to grow and grow personally, grow in wisdom and grow in character, and to build a foundation. And you and I both know if that foundation's not built, you might can go up 2 or 3 stories, but eventually everything's going to come crashing down. And at 28 years old, I realized my foundation wasn't as strong as it needed to be. And let me tell you, man, everything came crashing down. And so wisdom is important, and that's what we're doing at the Excellence Effect. I mean, we want people to live a life in excellence, and I believe excellence it honors God and it inspires people. Excellence honors God and inspires people. And so, if we're seeking excellence, and that's not perfection, things don't have to be perfect. The world tells you it has to be perfect, but it's kind of like Zig said, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you learn to do it better. But my God, just do something. I mean, start somewhere. The grave is full of people that died full. And what I'm learning in life, it's not about how long you live. It's just about whether you die empty or not. And when I die, I want to die empty. I want to have wrote every book I can write. I want to have reached every person that I can reach. I want to have touched every person. I want to die empty. And so the Excellence Effect for us is, we want to pour into people as much as possible. We want them to live a life of excellence, because when you're excellent, that's what we said, it honors God and inspires people. People are inspired by that. That attracts relationships, brings positive people to you. And through those relationships, resources flow. Everything flows through relationships. Resources flow, the things you need to accomplish. And today, you might have a vision, you might have a dream. You don't even really know exactly how everything's going to come to fruition. And, any dream that's worth anything is always going to be bigger than you. If you can't wrap your mind around it, then you've got a good dream. And so, you may not see how it all is going to happen, but if you'll just do the very best with what you've been given, and you'll take everything and use every resource, even though you may feel inadequate, may feel like you don't have the knowledge, you may feel like you don't have the skill set, you may feel like you don't have the relationships, but if you'll do the very best with what you've been given, and that's what we consider excellence, then I'm telling you what, just give it time, persist in your purpose, be consistent, and you'll be amazed in just a few short years how far you'll be able to come. Go as far as you can see, and once you get there, you'll be able to see a little further. But by all means, do something, act, and whatever you do, make sure that it's excellent.
And I know you're bringing that message to a lot of small businesses around as you speak and as you consult and work with them. So you must see a lot of challenges. And maybe for our audience, just highlight really the biggest mistake that you think small businesses are making today. And that would certainly be valuable for our listeners, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, it's like John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so when we're talking about small business, immediately we go to leadership. And ultimately, one of the greatest factors that I see that is having a negative impact on business owners, small business owners in particular, is really, it just goes back to one of those core value issues in life. And what I see is pride. And what tends to happen, we, especially, us men maybe can speak on it a little more than women. We're the ones who'll drive around in circles for 3 hours sometimes because we don't want to ask directions, But I see so many people, and that, of course, this goes back to wisdom as well. But business owners, they kind of get in their own bubble, and they do what they've always done. They don't seek counsel. They don't subject themselves to circles of influence larger than themselves. And the reason they don't is pride. And there is a lot of pride in starting a business, but you got to make sure that it's healthy pride and that it's not becoming degenerate. And what I tend to see is a lot of business owners start a business. They may have some success up front, but they don't seek counsel. They get hung in a rut. We all know a rut, that's just a grave with both ends kicked out of it. and you get hung in that rut too long, something's going to die before long. And the reason a lot of small businesses are dying, and they're limping along, is because the business owner, as a leader, has to step outside of himself. I've always said, you've got to hang out and befriend and sit at the feet of people that are, at the very least, going in the same direction you're going. But more times than not, you need them to be where you're wanting to go. If you don't feel a little uncomfortable being around them just from the mere success and what you know they've accomplished, then your circle might be too small. But you need to surround yourself with giants, people that can speak the hard truths, that can correct you when you need correcting, and that can encourage you when you need encouraging. And just learn how to submit. Learn how to talk less and listen more and get wise counsel, because there's wisdom there. And I know that sounds very basic, but you can take that right there and in any industry and put it into practice, and I guarantee you'll begin to see a dynamic turnaround.
Yeah, there seems to be a herd mentality in business today, where all these young new businesses are kind of running together and not necessarily seeking the counsel of people who have already gone before. And maybe had, startling success before or startling failure before. But nevertheless, they're going to run with their herd because that's kind of all they know. And what happens sometimes, all it takes is someone in the herd to turn the wrong way and the whole herd kind of runs off the cliff, right?
Yeah, and I love the show The Prophet, with Marcus Lemonis, that The Prophet Shark Tank. We my kids are even into that now, sitting watching it. But that if you just turn on the TV and watch The Prophet and watch how many businesses that that Marcus Lemonis goes into, and if you track it back, I mean, the core thing a lot of times is just pride, and they don't seek any counsel, don't seek any wisdom, and then when you get somebody in there that wants to help with the the people, the process and the products, then they're still resistant to change, and we've got to get ourselves out of the way and get our pride laid to the side and realize that, people's jobs, people's livelihoods, our family's financial legacy depends on us. And, a lot of times we're the one, it's not everybody else. It's the man in the mirror. It's the problem between our own two ears. And, that's the main thing I say is know how to submit, know how to talk less and listen more, surround yourself with giants, and you'd be amazed what will begin to happen for you.
Well, Justin, you did just that. I mean, you went out and seek the wisdom through Ziglar certification, and you spoke a little bit before about how that's helped you. Maybe just elaborate for our audience a bit on what the certification did for you personally and professionally.
Sure, yeah. And that I could talk all day on that, but that, as far as personally, I'll say this: it gave me a greater, almost surreal reality when I was out there for a week. Of course, missing your family and being away from your wife and kids, and you and I were talking earlier. I'm more the type guy. I mean, I'll go great lengths when it'd be easier to stay out of town on business to try and make it back home, and normally am. I mean, I don't mind traveling, but I like it a lot better when my wife's with me, especially. And so, but being out there at Ziglar headquarters and being part of it, and just hearing, that was a real and emotional thing for me, is hearing Tom talk about his relationship with Zig, and seeing the pictures of them walking into the restaurant holding hands together, and just it was almost like a video got played for me on the importance. Not that I didn't value relationships before, with my own mother, my own father, siblings, and then, of course, my immediate family now, wife and children. But just the importance, man, that every minute matters. And at the end of the day, nobody's, at the last few years of your life, last few minutes of your life, nobody's sitting there saying, I should have worked more hours. I should have went on more business trips. I should have tried harder to make more money. But time becomes paramount, and people realize, I should have spent more time with my kids. I should have took my wife out a little more instead of, finding other things to do. And as there's so much focus on relationships through the Ziglar message, and so for me, sitting there and hearing people talk about their relationships, and hearing Tom and watching the videos of Zig, and realizing that you might have seen Zig on on television for years and seen all this, but this man absolutely lived what he preached, and he loved a redhead, and probably we can't even imagine to what extent, and to be able to sit there and and hug Miss Jean, and it's just the authenticity is second to none, and it just gave me encouragement just in humanity. We've all been hurt. We can all tell sob stories about how people hurt us and relationships ended. We've all been through difficult times, but just to be able to sit there and realize there's a family out here in Dallas, Texas, that love each other, that have lived all this. Zig wasn't embellishing stories, and just when you've got that kind of authenticity and that love, and that family core and bond, and when you focus on the family, because what good does it do you if you win the world and lose your family? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And we can all certainly. You can look at Hollywood. You can look at large ministries and preachers. I can sit here and name a list long as my arm of people that won the world and lost their family, and I don't want to be that person. And so that was one of the greatest things for me, was to be able to sit there, and really it was just like all your relationships come to mind. Bob Bodine's there, and he's having us text the people that mean the most to us, and just tell them you love them. And we all get so busy, and we need to tell people we love them more, and they mean more to us. And life's short; it's like a vapor, and it's important, and we don't know when it's going to end and how long it's going to roll. And so we're sure we got to work hard. We need to hustle, and I'm at the top of the list for work's important, but you got to have that balanced life. And so for me, personally, that was the hugest impact. And then professionally, the goals, goal setting and achievement. It's so simple, and you almost listen through Zig's, 7 steps, the plan to set those goals and reach them. And then you hear it, and you're like, well, I could have thought of this, but it's put in such a way that a clarity comes to that process, unlike anything you can imagine, and it becomes so attainable. And things that seem so far out of reach, instantly you see how they can be reached. And for me, being able to work through that process, and of course they have us go through our personal goals, our business goals, and to put a plan in place. It's absolutely amazing. The synergistic effect and the power that's released when you step out and begin to act on that. And I believe, our company has experienced more growth faster thus far this year, and I honestly believe 2015 is going to be just an amazing breakout year for us. But I know some of that, and the great majority of it, I attribute to just really being able to grasp and get my hands around how to take those goals and really get them in place. And so we're living the growth from that now. So professionally, without a doubt, learning how to take those goals and get them put into a day-to-day practical step with time management and everything else that goes into that, it's transformed our business this year.
That's incredible. I'm really happy to see that this affected you on several levels, and I think it does all begin kind of personally and with your home and developing yourself first so that you can go out and develop others. And it certainly sounds like to me, with the excellence effect, you're right on target to do that for hundreds, if not thousands, of small business owners. And that may have not been your original intention or vision for attending the Ziglar Legacy Certification Program. Everyone has kind of different reasons for wanting to go into it. Most people approach it because they've been impacted in some way by Zig, whether it be his teachings or a program. Accountability is a big thing, right, Justin? You talked a little bit about setting your goals, and we've all in business done goal setting, but then to actually have someone there kind of over your shoulder mentoring you and guiding you through the process, and yes, holding you accountable, that makes a difference, right? And I know there are probably people out there that are thinking, and we've been talking a little bit about the Ziglar Legacy Certification Program, and certainly that's the common thread with the people that we interview on the podcast. So people are probably wondering, what is it all about? Is this something that's suited for them? And it may not be. So, we're not trying to insinuate that everyone needs to go through this. This is sort of an exclusive club, but exclusive in a good way, certainly. And if you out there as a listener have a desire to maybe learn a little bit more about this, maybe extend your reach and in the businesses that you're in, maybe get that, that personal kind of counsel, that wisdom that Justin was just talking about. So I would ask you to just head on over to awesomeimpact.com/ZLC questions. I'll give you that one more time. It's awesomeimpact.com/ZLC questions. And there's some information up there that'll give you a brief overview of the program, but more importantly, if you give us your information and just kind of your name and some basic contact information, we will make sure that one of the folks from Ziglar Corp gets in touch with you. I'm certainly more than happy to talk with you out there, anyone who wants to know more about the program. I was in the third class. Justin, you were right before me, so we never actually met face-to-face. You were in the second class, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
But you're no way second class, I can tell you that. You were first class all the way, and
Thank you.
And I really thank you, Justin, for coming and sharing. You inspire me, you really do, and that's one of the cool things I think. And as a offshoot of what we're doing here at the podcast, one of the cool things is like I wind up walking away from these sessions kind of inspired because I see what other folks are doing with the materials, with the teachings, and certainly within business. And that inspires me to do more and say, well, if Justin's out there, he's got 112 business people in a room in a relatively small town. Hopefully I don't offend you, a small town in Georgia there.
No.
If you're making that impact in your local community, so can I, right? And so can you out there as listeners. So it's really been inspiring. I want to thank you, Justin, so much, and I look forward to talking with you more. I look forward to possibly maybe even working with you on a project because I think we share a lot of the same goals and same aspirations here. And if there are ways that we can lift each other up and serve each other, certainly that's a Zig thing. You can get everything and anything you want in life if you help enough people get what they want. So it's been my pleasure to hopefully serve you in a way to get your message out here. And I know you're going to continue to serve people throughout the country and who knows, throughout the world as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on, John. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. The pleasure has been mine. Thank you, folks. Hey, thanks for joining us. You've been listening to an episode of Ziglar's Legacy Voices podcast. For more great interviews, go to awesomeimpact.com.
Now let me tell you something, folks. You're what you are and you're where you are because of what's gone into your mind. Now you can change what you are. You can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind.